2 weeks ago, I talked about how we Africans are asked very insidious questions that are made to distract us, to make us start looking for information and spend so much time on information that really doesn't help us, and takes us away from the questions that are important for us. And then I talked about how we are gaslighted many times as African scholars or knowledge seekers. Let me put it as knowledge seekers. We are gaslighted so that we don't do any interpretation, and we are stuck at implementing what other people do. So, we are always being asked, are you sure? Where is the evidence? Basically being told, who are you to ask questions? And then because of that, that makes us so insecure, we start looking for who else has done it, and we end up always just applying what other people have done. We never analyze, we never reflect, we never create. So I want to continue on that path, because what I was talking about then is when people are planting doubt in us. But that doesn't mean doubt is bad. It's necessarily bad. There are times when it's important to doubt. And if anyone should doubt, it's us people who are knowledge seekers. In fact, we seek knowledge through our doubt. So I want to read the famous story of the doubting Thomas. This is from John 20, verse 24. One of the 12 disciples, Thomas, called the twin, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So Jesus had already appeared to the disciples and he was not there. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." Thomas said to them, "Unless I see the scars of the nails in his hands and put my finger on those scars and my hand in his side, I will not believe." A week later, the disciples were together indoors and Thomas was with them. The doors were locked and Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and look at my hands. Then stretch out your hands and put it in my side. Stop your doubting and believe." Thomas answered, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Do you believe because you see me? Happy are those who believe without seeing me." Okay, most of the time when I used to hear people talking about this passage, they used to say that it's bad to doubt, we might just believe the Lord, we should not look for evidence, blah, 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 blah. Hey, but I'm an academic. Me, I want evidence. You see, the thing is, part of the reason why Thomas was doubting was because he was not there when the others were there. So the others were believing because they had had experience. They had experience, they had seen Jesus, so they believed that Jesus was alive. But Thomas was not there, and so he said, "No, until even me, I see it, I'm not going to believe." And the reason he's doubting is not because he thinks Jesus is a fraud or the disciples are a fraud. It's because this was a miracle. This was a thing that they had not expected. And you can imagine, after Jesus is crucified, they feel hopeless. They had given their lives to this guy for 3 years. The Romans crucified him, and it was possible that they could come for them as well. So it was not a small thing to want more proof before he could say, "I believe and I have seen him." And what we learn from this, what we see in this passage is that, sometimes we may not have the same experience other people have. And this happens a lot in Kenya. People tell you, "This one, we are sure it works and it works. And we've seen it and it works." And then you, because your experience is different, you say, "I'm sorry, I don't believe. I mean, I need more proof for me to believe what you're saying." And it's not because you're negative or because you're not positive, as I'm always told. It's because you don't have the same experience. You want to see for yourself, because what you have, the experience you have gone through, does not confirm what you're being told to take as true. And like for me, when I started questioning CBC, that was how I started. People think it's because, anti-government, blah, blah, blah. No, I started asking questions because for 10 years, I had been struggling to get students to study the arts. They would tell me there's no market, that the arts are useless. I would hear people in the media saying that universities are giving useless degrees. I would hear Matiang'i, a graduate of literature, saying that literature is not what Kenya needs, it's a waste of time. The head of KEPSA was saying, we don't want students who are doing the arts because they don't give any, they don't make any contribution to the economy. So I felt crucified, basically. I felt the arts had been crucified, and now we are being told there is this curriculum and it has the arts. I said, no, I have to see it for myself. I have to see it. We cannot have been struggling all these years for the arts, and then now the arts are okay. So I started digging in. I said, can I see the curriculum? I was told, look for it on the internet. So I looked for it. Then I look, where is this arts I'm being told about? And let's say the story, the rest is history. I kept asking and saying, these things are not answering the questions which I am asking. Then my questions are not being answered. And I was asking those questions because of my experience. I had seen the arts being vilified. I was not going to believe that the curriculum is now valuing the arts, and it still doesn't, by the way. They're talking of talent, but that's another story altogether. But I asked. And for Thomas, he asks, and Jesus doesn't rebuke him until he gives Thomas what he wants. He says, touch me here, touch my hands, look at my side. And that is what leadership is. Leadership is allowing people to doubt and ask questions, and for you to answer them. If the people say, we need to see this to believe, you show them. And so when Thomas says, unless I see his pierced hands and see his side, I will not believe. Jesus says, okay, come. Here are my hands. Here is my side. And that's what leadership is. When people ask questions, we are supposed to answer, not rebuke them for not being positive and telling them, oh, go to here. Oh, when are you ever happy? Why are you always complaining? That's not what Thomas was told. He was told, touch my side. And that's the same thing that's going to happen to you when you're going for your defense. You're going to be told, are you the one who was crucified? If you're the one, show us your pierced hands. Show us how your hands got dirty when you did the research. Show us how you came up with this idea. Show us how you are reasoning. And if you really did the work, you will show them. You won't say, oh, that teacher ni mkali, she was attacking me, she was not listening. No. If you've done the work, you will answer the questions. You will show your nailed hands and your pierced side because you did the work. And that's why we must do the work. Because when we do the work, we are not afraid of people asking us questions. When you hear people saying instead, oh, what's wrong with you? Why are you doubting? Why are you always negative? Do you ever see anything good? Where is your solution? All those are because the people who are saying those things have no knowledge and they don't want to be found out. So they gaslight you like that. But the lesson here is that doubt is good. Doubt is how you get your questions answered. Thomas doubted and his questions were answered. I doubted and my questions, they were not answered by the people who should answer them. But what it did for me was that it opened me to a new world of knowledge, a new understanding of Kenya that I had never had. Because now when my questions were not answered, I started going back to the history books. I started saying, why is Kenya like this? Why do we have an education system built on certain philosophies and ideologies that are anti-African? And because of that searching, I've been able to write more articles. I've been able to be invited to places to talk about my views. I have started a channel. All these things came because I doubted. So Jesus allowed me to touch his nailed hands and his pierced side. Jesus honored my unbelief. Maybe not the Ministry of Education, but God has honored my unbelief. And I'll just end with that story in Mark. I think it's Mark chapter 9. This man had a son who was epileptic, but of course in the Bible they call it demons, that he was tortured by demons. But he had these symptoms of epilepsy, and the man kept bringing the child to the disciples, and nobody was able to heal the boy. And you can imagine that love of a father to keep on taking his son to doctor after doctor, healer after healer, and always seeking healing for his son. And this time he meets Jesus, and he tells Jesus the same thing. He said, I brought my kid to all these people, to your disciples, but nobody has been able to heal him, and yet he's been sick like this. And then Jesus asks the father, how long has he been like this? And then the father replies, ever since he was a child. And then he says, have pity on us and help us if you possibly can. So you can hear this is a tired father, but a loving one. He has persisted and taken his son to healer after healer, and it hasn't worked. But because of the love for his son, he still wants to try yet again. But he's tired, and he's not hiding that he's tired. So he says, help me if you can. Have pity on us, help us if you can. And then Jesus says, yes, if you yourself can, everything is possible for the person who has faith. So normally somebody would be intimidated by that and try to pretend, yeah, I have faith. You know, that's not a problem, just to sort of get by and sort of bribe Jesus into healing his son. But this is what the father says, so honest. He says, the father at once cried out, I do have faith, but not enough. Help me to have more. Help my unbelief. And that's what knowledge is. Here it's healing, but that's what knowledge is. Knowledge is not saying, that guy, he always lies, I don't care, I don't believe. It's saying, I do have faith, but I need some more. Help me, help my unbelief. You know, just answer my questions. Just give me this. Let me look for more answers. Let me persist and do the research. Even though it is tiring, let me persist and do the research, because one day I will find the answers. Like this father. Can you imagine, since he was a child, the child was young, he's still pursuing. He's not given up. And that's how research is. We don't give up. We just say, help my unbelief. Let me persist. Let me get the answers. And God will honor us. This Kenya may not honor us, but God will honor us. God will help our unbelief. God will help us be able to put our finger to Jesus' side and to his nailed hands, and we will find our answers. But if you want shortcuts, you will get them, but what will happen is that when people doubt and ask answers, you start panicking, then you start insulting people. So it's up to us. We should not be ashamed of our doubts. And because those doubts are the ones that help us get the answers we want. And we are not doubting for the sake of being cynical. It's to say, I don't have the experience that would give me that would make me believe the answer that you're giving me. I need to find it out for myself. And in fact, that's how children learn, but our education system beats them up. So by the time they get to campus, they fear doubting in case they are called foolish. If you've done the work, you should let me touch your pierced hands and your wounded side. Don't start panicking. Don't start saying, oh, she's attacking me, Mwalimu doesn't like me, this thing is hard. No. If you've done the work, you will be open. You will be open to being asked questions about what you've written.